Good afternoon. Today is November 1st, 2024. My name is Thomas Toft. I am a qualified tax expert with the West Michigan Low Income Taxpayer Clinic, part of Legal Aid of Western Michigan. Today I'd like to talk about how to stop scammers from filing returns under your name and why the IRS says to get an IP PIN before November 23rd, 2024. Now, before we get started, I want to say that this is not legal advice. Nothing in this presentation is a substitute for a private consultation with an attorney regarding a legal problem. The information in this presentation relates to the current state of tax law. Tax laws can change. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get started. In an IRS news release just a week ago from October 23rd, 2024, it says that the IRS encourages people to sign up for an identity protection PIN, called an IP PIN, before November 23rd, 2024. The IRS said that after this date, the IP PIN system will undergo maintenance and will not be available again until early January 2025. The IRS wanted to let us know that signing up for an IP PIN now will ensure that a taxpayer's identity is protected when the filing season begins. So, what is an IP PIN? An Identity Protection PIN, IP PIN, is a 6-digit number from the IRS that stops others from filing a tax return with your Social Security number or individual taxpayer identification number. Once you get it, an IP PIN needs to be put on any e-filed or mail-filed tax return. A return e-filed without a correct IP PIN will be rejected. A return mailed with a correct IP PIN, a return mailed without a correct IP PIN will face additional IRS scrutiny and delay. So, to understand what IP PINs are all about, we need to talk about how scammers like to file fake returns electronically. Now, to electronically file, we call e-file, it's where a tax return is submitted to the IRS via the internet. Scammers pretend to be you as the person e-filing, or they might list you as a dependent. E-filing is easier for scammers than mailing returns to the IRS. Scammers know the IRS usually processes e-file tax returns quicker than mailed returns. And scammers can use artificial intelligence and automated computer programs to do mass e-filings with people's stolen information. And you see, IP PINs are bad for scammers. Scammers cannot e-file a return using your information if they don't know your IP PIN. Without your IP PIN, scammers are forced to mail a paper return to the IRS. A scammer's mail-filed return without your IP PIN on it will go through extra security screenings at the IRS. All this means, if you have an IP PIN, it's more likely scammers will just give up once their e-filed fake return using your information is rejected by the IRS. So let's talk about how to get an IP PIN. There's an IRS IP PIN online tool at www.irs.gov/get an IP PIN. You can log in there, set up an IRS account if you don't have one, and request for an IP PIN online. This is the most practical way to get an IP PIN before November 23rd, 2024. Now, if you cannot get an IP PIN online, you can complete an IRS Form 152-27 and send it to the IRS. But to use this form, you must not already have an IP PIN assigned to you. Your adjusted gross income on the last filed return must be under $79,000 for individuals or under $158,000 for those married filing joint. And you must have access to a telephone. The IRS has a link to Form 15227 at www.irs.gov/get an IP PIN. Usually the IRS mails your IP PIN 4 to 6 weeks after it verifies you applied. But I've got to say it's probably too late to mail this and have the IRS process and verify it before November 23rd, 2024. And if you're unable to get an IP PIN online or with a Form 15227, you can make an appointment with the IRS. The IRS gives information on its local Taxpayer Assistance Center offices and how to schedule appointments at this web address I'm providing. The IRS phone number for scheduling appointments at these offices is 844-545-5640. But it's important to note that there may not be any appointments available before November 23rd, 2024. Now, once you get an IP PIN, it is valid for 1 calendar year. A new IP PIN is provided to you each year going forward. If you have an online IRS account, it'll appear there. Just log in and you'll see it on your My Profile page or the profile page. If you don't have an online IRS account and you got the IP PIN from mailing a form or visiting an IRS office, then the IRS should mail it to you every year. And this number changes. So every year the IRS generates a new number, they provide it to you, and it's that new number that you use for the current filing season. Again, I want to note that an IP PIN must be used when filing any federal tax returns during the year, including prior year returns. So if you have an IP PIN, and say you want to get caught up on some old tax returns that you didn't file, well, you will need your IP PIN for those older tax returns to be filed. Now, what if you lose your IP PIN? Well, logging back into your online IRS account will display your current IP PIN under the profile page. You can also call the IRS at 1-800-908-4490 for specialized assistance to get an IP PIN reissued by mail. But you can only call to do this if it's before October 14th, so it's now too late to do this for the upcoming 2025 filing season. If you don't have your IP PIN, then you'll have to mail your tax return. Now I'd like to provide some resources. I want to mention there is free tax preparation available to many. Some people qualify for free tax prep help, especially those with low or moderate income, disabilities, limited English proficiency, or those aged 60 plus. Look into volunteer income tax assistance and tax counseling for the elderly programs at this IRS web link. You can also check out United Way's My Free Taxes at www.myfreetaxes.com. Or you could call 211 during the filing season and ask for free tax preparation. Most free tax services are only open during tax filing season, but some are open year-round. Here are some online resources. I've got a link to the IRS news release talking about how they want everyone to sign up for IP PINs. There's a link to the IRS website where you can create an account or log in and request an IP PIN or retrieve an IP PIN that you have misplaced. There's a link to frequently asked questions the IRS has about IP PINs. I also included a link to an IRS website about how to file an identity theft affidavit if you are unfortunate enough to have had your information used to file a return under your name. And at the bottom is the IRS website to use for scheduling appointments with your local IRS office. Are there any questions? Okay then. Well, I appreciate your time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, goodbye.